Hello, I'm going to be working with you on the Philharmonia Viola Excerpt. This excerpt is from the fourth movement of Shostakovich's Fifth Symphony, which is an amazing work of music. So if you've never heard this piece before, I encourage you to listen to it in its entirety. You will be blown away by this symphony. But even if you have played this and performed it before, everybody should definitely listen to the fourth movement when preparing this excerpt. That will help you feel the emotional soundscape with which Shostakovich was writing, and also really tap into the verve and the vitality and the intensity that this excerpt requires. So before I perform the excerpt for you, I just want to give, I guess it's a little disclaimer. It's not really a disclaimer, but you should definitely follow whatever fingerings that your teacher has given you, because that should be your priority, is to do what your teacher says. So if you see me doing a certain fingering that you haven't been practicing, that's not what is important for performing this excerpt. We want to see that you have really made the musicality and the tempo and the rhythm a part of your DNA almost as you perform this excerpt for us when you record your audition. So at the beginning of this excerpt, there are a lot of accents on the rise up to the top of the little chromatic scale here into rehearsal 100. And so one of the ways that I would encourage you to practice this is by voicing. And by voicing, I mean really feeling where each stair-step level of the music goes and putting a slight pause in between to give your brain some time to process it. And so this is what I mean by this voicing idea. And I'll start at the beginning of the excerpt. And then you can go a little faster. And eventually start to make that little gap even less. And that can really help clean up the beginning of this. And with anything, always start from the string, especially at the beginning of this excerpt. Make sure that your bow is engaged and that you are pronated into your C string so that you can really give a good start to that up bow 16th note. So again, use whatever fingering that you've been working on with your teacher. You are asked to use the top line divisi in this excerpt. I just wanted to bring that up, just to remind you. So now let's look at two measures before rehearsal 101. So there's a couple of instances in this where we have the rhythm that is an 8th note followed by two 16th notes. And here is another opportunity for voicing to make sure that your bow stroke is very, very clean. And so again, here's an example of what practicing this voicing would sound like. And I'm starting two measures before 101. So I gave myself a little pause before I had to do the double down bow. Certainly don't really lift your bow, keep it right where it lands, and we need that to be really, really clean. This part's really easy to sound kind of messy and not the best cleanliness-wise in terms of articulation. So I'm going to do it again, the same slowish tempo, but I'm going to reduce the amount of wait time. So that can also really help you clean up two measures before 101. Now at 101, even those the dotted rhythms in the first two beats, you can really make that clean too by voicing. Just really really feeling your bow engage with the string on the little 16th notes, I think is a good thing to be aware of. Okay, so let's go to the second page. So yes, there are two pages for this excerpt. And so at rehearsal 110, we go into a big half note feeling. So tempo-wise, it's not like crazy fast or anything, but definitely what is challenging about this area is the intonation. So specifically in the second bar of 110, into the third bar where we go from the E to the A. Now the fingering that I'm using is a pretty bold one. I'm going from the B natural all the way up to fourth position on the E and then playing the A with my fourth finger. And again, you can do whatever you want. But I've had to practice that a lot. And one of the ways that I feel that has been the most successful for me learning those pitches is by using a technique called stepping stones. And stepping stones, I talk about that a little bit in the video I made about practicing scales. But stepping stones is this idea that we have a series of stones across a river, and we want to step on the first one and make sure that it's stable and secure enough for us to move to the next stone. And if it doesn't feel stable or secure, then we go back to the stone that we just came from. So what this would sound like in this area, I'll start right at 110. So I'm going to just forget, it's not important right now that I have the right rhythm or anything. This is purely just for the pitches. So, and be aware of that is a treble clef A on the downbeat of 110. So don't accidentally play a B flat in alto clef. So I'm going to do this with stepping stones for a few notes till I get to the high A. So I could keep going just to make sure. I could also do it a little faster. But what's most important is that we're getting a shift or that big interval in tune between the B natural and the E. So you could go back and forth. Until you can reliably hit that pitch. And it's really important here at 110 for it to be expansive and singing. It's a big brass moment as well. It's just really regal sounding as well. So use a lot of bow in this area. You don't want to use too much bow in the beginning of this excerpt or it will sound really messy. So when we get to the part here at the end of the excerpt that is all of the 16th notes from the A flat to the G and back and forth, I would encourage you to really feel, since this is in 2, to really give yourself a little pulse on the half bar. This will help keep you organized and your brain organized, and to give the music for us to, the person listening, to not get lost in all of that barrage of the pitches, but we feel the pulse definitely happening. I know that this has been a chair test excerpt at a few points in the past in Houston Youth Symphony, and at the times that I've been the person listening to those chair tests, sometimes people play too many or too few of these, so definitely don't let that be you. Put some slashes in so you can organize your brain and see how many beats and how many beats you have left to play as well. And also take your pencil and put a crescendo at the end of this. That is going to help us give just a little bit more push to the finish and make it sound more exciting. So this excerpt begins at quarter note equals 104. That's not that fast, actually. So make sure you don't start too fast, because if you start too fast, then incrementally everything also has to be proportionally faster than that. So definitely try to internalize this 104 tempo. Listen to different recordings as well. But again, not too fast. In fact, you might want to feel a little bit jazzy at the beginning, not in terms of rhythm, but just feeling like you're on the back side of the beat. Just so that we can also give yourself room to give the excerpt more energy as you go along. And in the second line, we go up to 108. With just a little bit more caffeine, a little bit of a shot of espresso to the tempo. So, but again, don't let this rush or move forward too much. And then on the second page, when we go to 70 to the half note, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, ready, go. So we want that to really, really flow. And then also keeping this at 70, really practicing our 16th notes at the end, making sure that those are as clean as possible. Little bows, very clean and crystal clear with our left hand, but also with the articulation in our bow. So, without further ado, here is a version of the Philharmonia Viola Audition Excerpt for this season. And again, it's Shostakovich Symphony No. 5, the fourth movement. And I'm gonna put on the 104 just to make sure I don't start too fast.